Sometimes it's the journey that teaches you a lot about your destination. And sometimes when you get there and look back, you wish you could go there again because all of your experiences that you went through made you who you are today. Drake. Hi, hello, and welcome back to the Misadventures of the Mind podcast, hosted by me, your clinical child and adolescent psychologist, alias Kalik Nadal. Welcome to episode 8. And I'm already manifesting this will be your favorite episode. And I have no, let's say, proof of that or relevant reason why. I just know that it will be because number 8 is my favorite number. It's my lucky number, so I feel like at the end of this episode you'll also tell me, you were right. This is also a great episode. It's my lucky episode. It's my favorite episode. You can send it to me, DM me via Instagram. You can drop it in the comments on YouTube. Also, fun fact, you can share your comments and your thoughts on Spotify even at the end of each episode. If you scroll down a little bit, you can find a question or a poll sometimes about what you thought about the episode, and the only answers that I will be receiving and I will accept and or tolerate is that you're telling me that it's your favorite. That is all that is it. Now, for my new listeners, for my new loyal members of this here community, welcome. Welcome to the podcast where we talk about life, we talk about emotions, we talk about the things that go on in our mind and everything in between. Because obviously, as we grow up, as we're living in this world, there's a lot of world to experience, and sometimes we don't know how to navigate it. But this here podcast is where we talk about it all. We get a little vulnerable. We open up to each other. I open up to you. And that's how we continue and will continue to build this community. Now, we still need to find that community name. My mind has been going. My gears in my mind have been turning. So far, it comes up with nothing, but I know someone somewhere out there will inspire me and say, hey, maybe this community should be called the mental misadventurers. Yeah. You know what? It's a workshop. We'll figure it out at some point. But anyhow, today's misadventure of the mind is one that convinces you that life is too hard and you should quit. Mic drop. Add a little bomb effect right there. I'll read it again because this one is a deep one. This one is one where honestly I had to stop myself because I felt like I was snatching my own edges, and I said, hold on, who do I think I am? But then I thought, maybe this is exactly what we need. Maybe that is the word and the lesson and the conversation that I should be having with myself. I'll say it again. I'll repeat it. The misadventure of the mind of this episode is one that convinces you that life is too hard and you should quit. Now, like I said, this episode's MOTM is one that made me hold on to my edges very, very carefully because I thought, whoa, now, where am I going with this? And actually, it's because of the realization, and we're going to get into a little story time, but the realization that life kind of just goes on. It doesn't care about anyone. It doesn't care about where you are in life. It doesn't care about what path you think you should be taking. It doesn't care about the plans that you may have set out for that path that you thought that you were going to take. It just kind of moves on and keep going with no regard for human life. So like I said, story time. So for the past couple of, I want to say weeks, maybe it's been a month at this point, but let's just say for the past couple of weeks, life just be life. And my life specifically has been lifing with different changes that I had to kind of deal with. I had to deal with new things coming about. I had to figure out, just life things without getting too deep and too drawn out about all of the things that make me stressed and want to pull out my hair. But I just had so much on my plate, not just work related, but also, figuring out what I want to do next in life. It was just so much that I thought I'm so overwhelmed. I didn't even have time to think about that actually. It was more so just me feeling overwhelmed and me feeling a little bit lost in the sauce, lost in my own mind. Dare I say, I got trapped in my own misadventured mind. It felt like a labyrinth, to be honest. And if you're not familiar with what a labyrinth is, it's basically another word for a maze. Just twists and turns. There are some dead ends. There are some places where it looks like there is an outcome, but then you figure out that you took a completely different road than you were supposed to, and now you have to turn back. And that is actually how I would describe the last couple of weeks. It just felt very labyrinthish. For a lack of better description or word, it felt very labyrinthish. And that's not a bad thing in general, but honestly, I've reached a part in my life, or come to terms with the fact that sometimes my life might feel a little labyrinthish, but this time it just felt like, whoa, do I have enough time? Do I have enough mental capacity to kind of deal with everything that I have to deal with? And it's just, I didn't, to be honest. I felt like I was drowning. If I'm being real, if I'm being, vulnerable with you right now, it just felt like I should just stop and just take a break and just never look at the things again. I don't know if you're a person like me who likes using to-do lists, but my to-do list was literally overflowing, and I thought to myself rather, maybe I should just throw the to-do list away, and then I don't have to see any of the things that I need to deal with on this to-do list. But anyways, so I just felt very overwhelmed, very like I couldn't take a breath, because I feared if I did take a breath, I would not have time to meet the deadlines or accomplish and achieve the things that I had to do on the to-do list. And a couple weeks after, so present day as I'm recording this episode, my to-do list is still pretty long, I'm not gonna lie, but it feels a lot better. It feels a lot more manageable. And you're probably wondering, how the heck did I get there? I'll let you know. I'll get to that. Hold on. Just have a little patience, will you? Be patient with me. However, before I get into the how did I deal with it, how did I manage getting the things off of my to-do list checked off and also feeling like myself again, I had to kind of pass through or experience, I'd say. Yeah, I feel like that's a better word. I had to experience the feeling that I was feeling, the overwhelmed feeling that I had, the feeling that I was drowning, the feel like I was a little bit lost. And quite frankly, I felt disconnected from myself. And, to me, at this point, it doesn't feel foreign. And it sounds very somber, like very dark, but it doesn't feel foreign in the sense that I am not afraid of feeling that feeling anymore, because in the past I also felt that, because like I said, life just be lifing. And in the past I would get so afraid and I would feel so much more lost and almost isolated when I felt like I was disconnected from myself. But now I kind of accept it, because it is something that I deal with and it is a part of who I am. Of course, it depends on the person, but everyone has a certain feeling that they might feel when things aren't really going well or things aren't going as they expected. And for me, that's feeling disconnected from myself. So, I have a routine, and maybe I've said this before, maybe I haven't, but in case I haven't, I have a very, I wouldn't say specific routine, but it is a routine I like to follow for me to stay grounded and connected to myself. And that's journaling, as well as doing mindful meditations, and often just, taking time for myself to either read or do art and listen to music while I do all of these things. Because music is really something that, I don't know, connects me, connects me to my thoughts. And it sounds very ironic because if I'm reading a book, I can't read it in silence. I always have to have music on so that I can focus. Crazy, I know. But maybe you feel me, half of you might think this girl is crazy. The other half might think, yes, girl, I feel you. Well, I'm speaking to those that feel me right now. Pause. So I have this specific routine, and when I'm disconnected or when I feel overwhelmed, that routine kind of also gets lost in the sauce, So it makes it that much more difficult, or I feel like it's that much more difficult to get into that routine without me feeling like I'm forcing myself to. Like, there's no pleasure in it anymore if I'm forcing myself to. So that again adds to the vicious cycle, actually, of me feeling disconnected and a little bit lost and, drowning in the to-do list. But like I said, it's a feeling that I've not come to terms with, but it is a feeling that I accept. And I've realized that in accepting it makes it that much easier to handle it, to deal with it, to manage it even. Now I'm gonna pause right here because I do want to make something clear, because obviously this is an episode of like awareness and self-awareness and self-reflection. However, there is also a thing that in that period of me feeling disconnected, I realized, I think that's the word that I'm gonna use this time around. I realized that the things that I was going through, that I was kind of struggling to manage, were things and I guess steps that I needed to get to where I wanted to be. Because, a couple of episodes prior, I said that I created like a resolutions list for this year. So on my resolutions list, there are a couple of things that kind of, came back tenfold very quickly, as a matter of fact, and also life be lifing while God be doing his thing. So it's like two things happening to little old me, and then I have to be dealing with it. So, it's just the double thing. It's crazy. But one of the things, for example, and this is something that I think I've said maybe since last year, or definitely last year, but like for the last couple of months at the end of the year, I've been saying that, I want a new phone. I need a new phone because my phone is like 4 years old at this point. And lo and behold, a couple of, I think it was last week actually, or maybe 2 weeks ago, depends when you're listening to this episode, but for the sake of understanding the time frame, it was the middle of January, so the second or third week of January, I lost my phone. While I was going home from work, I already had a really long day at work, and I had a lot of things on my mind. I had a lot of things in my hand as well as me just being tired and ready to just turn on the jets and get to my house, which usually takes about an hour. It's a little bit less than an hour depending on the metro and the train and all of that. But I lost my phone. And since that day, I couldn't find it. which is just really sad. I was really sad. I've been really sad. I don't know if I still am really sad, but I am definitely more so bummed that, I lost my phone. I felt like very irresponsible, and I know it's a very like irrational feeling to feel, but for me, I felt like I should have been more attentive or more aware of my belongings. So that really worked on me, and I guess that also ties into my own misadventured mind and the labyrinth that it is. It's like, yeah, I could have been more responsible, but it is something that I can't really control. The fact that, it fell or somebody picked it up or stole it or whatever, I don't have control over that. And no matter how hard I try to, or no matter how much I want to be able to control it, that is not something that will happen. And me coming to terms with that is also something that I had to deal with in that period of, feeling disconnected from myself, amongst other things, of course. But I just wanted to mention that because, sometimes we feel like life be lifing, but sometimes life be lifing because we spoke and manifested a certain life that we wanted to live. For example, if I say another example, which is also work related, like I love challenges, I got an opportunity to really get out of my comfort zone at work recently, and it is very scary because I do like to live in my bubble, but being outside of my bubble and being outside of my comfort zone, I was able to also see not only the growth with the person with whom I was working with, but also in myself. And I think that, of course, not within the time frame and period of me kind of being a little bit frantic, but after the fact, I was able to realize that maybe this is something that is necessary. Maybe, God be doing his thing and life be lifing because it's necessary for my growth. It's, I always say trust the process, and here I am in a process that I probably manifested myself and kind of freaking out about it instead of trusting it. So I also had to come to terms and kind of, face myself in the mirror and say, hey, you're always saying trust the process. How about you practice what you preach? So then my question for you is, has there been a time in your life where, you also got confronted with something that you preach, but sometimes or often fail to practice? Think about it. Discuss about it. Come back to it. Because, if it is something that you've been preaching, means at the end of the day, or, and the underlying factor is that you believe it to some extent. So what is the reason that you're holding yourself back from believing it yourself, or from executing it, or trusting the process of it? Question for yourself. I say all of that to say I have let's say a sentence, because as I was, coming up with the structure of this episode, there was like a sentence that kind of stood out to me. And it's a very simple sentence. However, if you change one word in between this sentence or within this sentence, it kind of changes the feeling of it. It changes the emotion, but also the purpose of it. And that sentence is get ... it. And the ... is where you fill in a preposition. Now, if you don't know what a preposition is, this is going to turn into a whole English lesson almost, but a preposition is a word or group of words used to link nouns, pronouns, and phrases to other words in a sentence. For example, to, or by, or at, under, etc. You get the point, I hope. So in this sentence, get fill in the preposition here. And there were 3 different prepositions that kind of came to mind, and it's through, over, past. So you would have 3 different sentences and different types of sentences actually. You can either get through something, you can either get over something, and you can get past something. However, each one of those things have a different meaning and purpose. Because, for example, if I were to get over it, it almost means that I should set it aside or put it behind me without really dealing with it. I just like stuff it under the rug and move on. I move past it without really having to understand the reasoning or understand my own emotions or understand the people that are involved, depending on the situation, of course. And there's also sometimes similar with getting past something, because that is also in a way putting it behind you and moving on. However, the difference between getting over something and getting past something, getting past it usually, and this is not my own words, but something that I found in my search for understanding the difference myself, is that getting past something is more specific. So you have a specific situation that, or a specific feeling that you wanna move on from. Whereas if you're getting over something, it is just that. It's very broad, it's very unspecified. So it implies successfully moving beyond a specific obstacle or challenge. And then getting over it, it's just literally meaning you're not gonna spend any more time or effort thinking about it or talking about it. And usually getting over the thing is often a negative experience or feeling. So that is kind of the difference between getting over and getting past something. But those two are similar with each other. However, if you're getting through something, that is more active. So you can kind of see getting over something and getting past something as a more passive way of moving on. Whereas if you're getting through something or getting through it, me getting through the situation is more active, where I need to be at work almost to move on. So I'll kind of discover my underlying feelings or my underlying thoughts, or I'll say, what is the thing that triggered me in this situation? Or, for example, getting through it might also be that I tried to find a solution as opposed to just moving on and forgetting about it. I actually want to find a way to fix it. So those are the differences. I hope that was clear. And for me, in this specific situation, I feel like the preposition that I most relate to, I think, or that I'd say fit this situation is definitely through, because I did take time to kind of understand what was going on in my mind as well as my emotions. And I also tried to find a solution. Obviously, I tried to look for my phone physically and online on websites and stuff like that. So I definitely think that I had an active approach to the things that I was going through, not just my phone, but, the other things that, life had in my path. I'm just curious, for my listener out there, which one do you usually subscribe to? Which one do you feel like you most relate to? Is it that you get through something? Is it that you get over something? Or is it that you get past something? And the second question to that is, do you like that you have that specific preposition? Or would you want to challenge yourself to get another one, try another one out, see how it feels, see what effect it has? Question for yourself. Now, as I said previously, I am a person who loves telling other people to trust the process, other people as well as myself, because I am a firm believer that, everything happens for a reason and everything has a way of working out, not just by, let's say, pure chance, but because you kind of set things in motion for yourself, but also God has a plan for you. And that is something that I will continue believing till the day I die, unless I have a completely change of heart, of course. But for now, I am a firm believer of trusting the process. So, you're probably wondering, how did I end up doing that? Or did I even end up doing that? The answer is 50-50. I'm not gonna lie, it was very difficult, because I felt like there was so many things happening all at once that it was almost out of sight to see the positive outcome, but also out of mind to actually think about me trusting the process and how I can do that effectively. However, after, going through that whole period, couple weeks after, like today, present day, I was today years old when I kind of figured out how to trust the process properly. I'm also going to, bless you with some tips and tricks that I've looked up and I've found, but also tips and tricks that I've practiced and that I do myself on a regular basis, including when I am still going through the thing that I'm going through. And maybe this might be helpful for you, and maybe you might think that this is absolute hogwash, and that's perfectly fine. Find the thing that fits your life, that fits your build, because we're all different, we're all unique. We all have an authentic self. Shout out to a couple of episodes prior. I believe that was episode 5. If you haven't checked it out yet, pause this episode right now, check it out, come back, press play where you left off. And I'm going to start off with the ways that I usually trust my process. The first thing that I like to realize is the fact that I have a purpose in life, and I like to sit on that. I like to make sure that I am aware, and I also believe it wholeheartedly, that I have a purpose in this life, that I have a purpose in this world, that I wasn't just created and brought forth into this world for no reason. And so that's number one, realizing that I do lead a purposeful life. So going with the process, trusting it, and going on my own personal journey is part of that purposeful living. Number 2 that I like to do, and this is something that I often do because I do have a tendency of kind of doubting myself. Shout out to imposter syndrome. But I like to take time to kind of focus and be inspired by myself, but also my own abilities. So really take time to reflect, but also take in my accomplishments and who I am as a person, what I've achieved while doing this thing called life, and taking time to really focus on the things that I've seen come back. Like a lot of people tell me that I have a good ability to write, that I write in a very easy to read but also very beautiful storytelling way. So for example, if I'm writing a blog, and that's also coming soon, I'll drop the site when it's time, but right now I'm just trusting the process. But when I'm writing a blog or a short story, I like to remind myself that I am able to do it, not just because other people say that I can, but I believe that I can. And then the third one, which is something that, it depends the type of person that you are, of course, but as a God-fearing woman, I believe that God has a plan for me, and I believe that He wouldn't put put me where I am currently had he not have a plan for me, had he not had a greater purpose or destiny for my life. And maybe you might believe in Allah or Buddha or nothing at all. That's totally fine. That's up to you. Maybe you might believe in astrology and the universe and other religious or spiritual practices. That is completely fine. That is totally acceptable. I respect it. Everyone, like I said, has their own thing, has their own driving force. Mine in my life is that I believe that the Heavenly Father is one that sets a path forward in a way that is not always clear cut. But that aside, there are other things that people often practice to help them trust the process. So number one thing that I found was practicing more gratitude, being more grateful for the journey that you had, being grateful for the obstacles that you were able to experience. And that, I feel like it's really great and an ode to the quote of this episode, which stated that sometimes the journey teaches you about your destination, and sometimes when you get there and look back, you wish you could go there again, because all experiences that you went through made you who you are. So obstacles and struggles and, twists and turns aren't always bad. There's beauty in it. Let's trust the man Drake. I know you know him. To continue, there's also let go of control. And I know that might be very difficult for some, especially when, they're very used to and accustomed to being a control freak, i.e. me. I'm talking about myself, but maybe for a listener out there as well, who might struggle a bit with always wanting to be in control. Sometimes it's better to let something or someone else be in control, to let that weight off of your shoulder, to let go of some of that pressure that you might be putting on yourself. So I thought that this one was a very beautiful one. And there's also, of course, having faith in the unknown. Kind of going with the flow, going with, wherever life may lead you. Because sometimes, like I said, the obstacle might be a blessing in disguise. It might end up being the most wonderful experience that you've had in a long time. And the last one that I'd like to mention, there are a lot more, but to keep it nice and sweet, and that's to visualize success. And that kind of ties in with manifesting, but also the power of positive thinking. And that's your ability to let go of the failure or the hardship of the current time and visualizing what it can mean to you. What does it represent for you to go through and overcome this struggle, to overcome this difficult path, to overcome this disconnected feeling that you might have? What does it mean for you? Because at the end of the day, the rain doesn't stay forever. There's no rainbow without some rain. A very cheesy quote, very cringy, but very true. Sometimes there's rain, but at the end of a rain spout, or at the end of a period of constant rain and constant darkness, the sun shines. And when the sun shines and hits that water, rainbow, beautiful. Meaning in life, there's a certain relief that also comes with that. So, my challenge for you is to think about what would that rainbow moment be in your life. What is the period of rain that you kind of have to go through to end up seeing that rainbow at the end of that period? Question for yourself. Now, today's episode was a hefty one. It was one that maybe was a little bit more confrontational than our previous episodes. And if you had to pause it for a minute or 10 or even 30 for a whole day even, it's totally fine. It'll be here when you get back. Maybe you needed a time to reflect on some things that I said, some thoughts that maybe came up in your mind, or an emotion. Also totally fine. But you know how we like to end these episodes, and that's with a little bit positivity for your day, for your week, your weekend, and even for your month. So today's affirmation I have for you is a very short and sweet one, but also very much practical and useful. And that is, I am where I need to be. I just need to trust myself and my path. And I can't forget my Bible readers out there. The biblical affirmation that I have for you can be found in 1 John 5:4, and it states, "For everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith." Now with that, I want to thank you for listening to this episode, listening to the other episodes as well. If you liked it, if there was something in this episode that tickled your brain, that made you question some things in life, or maybe you had a question for me, let me know. Comment on the Spotify episode, send a DM on Instagram at Misadventures of the Mind, or on YouTube, depends if you're a audio listener on YouTube. Just let me know. And maybe you don't even have to let me know, but definitely discuss it. Talk about it with your friends, with your family. Share it as well on All Things Shareable. So hopefully I can share some more insights with you on the next episode. Okay, thanks, bye.